Raising the Bets is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Raising the Bets. We're a Catholic couple raising 5 kids outside of Boston. Join us as we share the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, and our adventures near and far as we make sense of the world and experience the best parts of our culture. I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
So, it's been another week with us, and it's been a week full of things. Last week we talked about our air conditioner being broken.
It's still broken.
Still broken. So it's broken in such a way as that we can kind of use it if we manage it very carefully. So if what we've done is we'll run it for an hour, turn it off for an hour, run it for an hour, turn it off for an hour, hoping it doesn't freeze up. Because that's the problem is, if in case you don't remember, which is that it's got a leak and it eventually freezes up the air handler and stops blowing air. The compressor works, and I'm in the midst of getting quotes on a replacement, and wow, we've been shocked at the pricing.
Yeah, very shocking.
Yeah, so the thing to do now is to get a heat pump, right? Because the state subsidizes that. You can get up to $10,000 back from the state if you get a heat pump. So what do you think all of the HVAC guys have done with the cost of installing their heat pumps? They've gone up by $10,000. Imagine that. So who do these rebates really benefit? They're not benefiting the consumer. They're benefiting the special interest group. So this is something we've learned, and we've had some sticker shock this week. I just want to say the one thing, and then we can move on from the commissioner, which is I've been doing research. The average install price for a heat pump for our size house should be around $4,000 to $6,000, maybe $10,000 as an outlier.
This is the national average.
Yeah, well, but if I put in, like, it asks where you're at, and it says, oh, you're in the Northeast, so this is what it should be, right? Okay. So it should be in that range, up to 10. The first estimate we got was $19,000 for our tiny house. I was flabbergasted. So we're continuing to get quotes and see where that goes. Anyway, moving on. We have to get a new washing machine. In fact, we've already bought it. Our washing machine was making weird noises, which we figured out it's like 8 or 9 years old, which these days, if you can get a major appliance last for a decade, that's good.
Right.
Especially as much as we use it, 7 people. I mean, let's be honest, that's probably more than a lot of people. But it started leaking water. It's got this wet spot on the carpet. Right. Our laundry room is carpet. Great idea. Whoever did
brilliant.
Whoever set up the house. So there's been this wet spot there. So it was time.
We could have repair guys out and look at it and pay lots of money for them to tell us that we need to get a new one. But
no, when we had the guy come fix the dishwasher months ago, like last fall, I think it was, I had him look at the washer, and he basically said, yeah, you can't fix it. Like they don't have parts for these anymore. So you'd have to buy a new one when it goes. So we've been basically waiting.
I just love planned obsolescence of
appliances. Everyone knows they used to last a lot longer, and now they don't. So in the midst of all of the shopping for a new washer, we ended up getting a membership at Costco, like we've been talking about. We didn't go to Costco. I did it online just to see what their prices were like, for which it actually wasn't better than getting it from Lowe's or Home Depot. But we knew we wanted a membership, so we got it. So now we have to go to Costco. And actually it's pretty good, because now that means we have to go do it. So for fun things,
did we have fun?
I had fun with the kids on Friday night.
That's right. You had fun.
I had fun. I took the kids to the Brockton Rocks, our local minor league team, the Collegiate Futures League is called. They're all college ball players who spend their summer playing in a professional league, and these kids are all potential professional, major league ball players at some point. So we did this last year. We had a blast. It's 20 minutes door to door from our house to the stadium. And it is not crowded at all. It was $7 a ticket. It's so awesome. And it's a nice park. It's really nice. They have a brand new scoreboard and everything. The intent was originally they were going to do, it was a scout night, and they were going to have the scouts go to the game and then camp in the outfield overnight. But then something happened where they wanted to show them a movie on the big scoreboard, the new scoreboard, but the new sound system wasn't ready or something. So they postponed it, but they still gave us group tickets for this game that we'd already been planning to go to. So unfortunately, the makeup game will be during our family vacation, so we won't be able to go to the overnight thing, which I don't think our kids wanted to overnight there anyway.
They weren't very excited about the idea of spending the night in the ballpark.
Yeah, we had a blast. I mean, they enjoyed it. It's fun watching them. Our team won 19-1, which is always good when your team blows out the other team. We did stay for the whole game because they had fireworks at the end, and our kids had never seen real fireworks. Is that?
I think maybe
Bella when she was a baby.
Right.
The Salem fireworks, which
Right.
are awesome, by the way. Salem, Massachusetts has the best, at least when we lived there, they had amazing fireworks. They were really good. They were over the harbor. They had a concert with an orchestra. It was fantastic. I loved that. But these were small fireworks. But for our kids, they were big fireworks. It was all exciting and everything. It was just great watching them enjoy how much they loved it. It was really fantastic. And they were dancing in the aisle to the music being played over the sound system. And
it's funny because at least one child said, I'm something about regretting not having been able to see them when they were younger. And I was like, you were horrible with loud noises. You're the reason why we've never gone to fireworks, because as a child, you could not handle loud noises.
Right. Exactly.
So that was funny.
But it would be nice to take him to some big professional fireworks now. Like, gosh, the Boston ones on 4th of July.
You can do that. I have no desire to be in Boston on 4th of July.
I've only ever done that once. And that was because I was on my sister's boat in the Charles River underneath them.
Right.
I would never go to the Esplanade because there's like 400,000 people elbow to elbow sitting in this confined space all day in the sun until the concert starts. And yeah, but it would be nice to see like the big real fireworks with them, because big fireworks with the big ones and
I did
the finales. And that's just awesome.
I've done the equivalent of the Esplanade in Austin at Town Lake, and that was really fun. But much smaller crowds.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Especially back when I was in high school.
So I said it last year, and I'll say it again. I would love to go back to the Rocks game. It was such a fun thing. The only downside is like the tickets were cheap. The food is way expensive. I mean,
you should have fed them before you left.
Yeah, I mean, they each had a burger or a dog. We shared 4 waters between us. And then 4 more because they were thirsty. And you can't bring in outside water or food. No food or drink from outside. And then I got popcorn and pretzels. And then even then, Anthony was still like, I'm hungry, because he's a 12-year-old boy. And I'm like, yeah, we'll be home soon enough. You can eat something when we get home. Because that was probably like, it's like 60, 70, $80 just between those there. It was a lot. So
concessions are expensive.
That's where they're making their money, right? And they weren't great. I mean, it's what it is. But yeah.
Next time, feed them dinner so that they only need snacks.
Yeah, we'll get some popcorn and pretzels or something when we get there. We'll stick Skittles in their pockets or something. So yeah, just that way But it was a really nice time, folks. If you've got a small minor league ballpark near you, go check it out. It's America. That's if you want a real taste of Americana, with all of the crazy like minor league ballpark antics too, like the in between the innings, you have the mascot and you have the owner of the team in a bizarre cowboy hat and bizarre suit jacket, running along the tops of the dugouts, throwing candy at kids. And
Really?
oh yeah, he's like crazy promoter circus guy. He's like P.T. Barnum in the 21st century.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of minor league places like that. They create an atmosphere. It's fun. It's a family place, and they say right up front, like, we don't allow any non-family friendly activities. Like, no swearing, no throwing things, no, just we're here to have fun and enjoy ourselves. And that's what it was. It was really a nice time. So yeah, I would definitely recommend. And it's an inexpensive night out, apart from the food.
I had a really nice time.
And you had a nice
being
time
home by myself.
Yes, I figured you would. Yeah, this time Sophie went. She didn't go last time for whatever reason, but this time she went. So you had the house all to yourself. That'll be nice. That'll be nice for you on summer camp when you have the house all to yourself all week.
Very nice. I will get so much cleaning done. But I might take a day and
just relax.
Do something fun. Go into Boston and relax.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Maybe.
So I want to mention something that because we sometimes talk about things that kids are learning, and I want to mention something we got for Anthony that to keep him, because he's the
summer project.
Summer project. He's always bored, and so we want to give him things to keep him unbored. So I think you found this. Did you find this, or did I find this?
I found this.
Okay, so it's from a company called Inventor.io, inventr.io. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's called Adventure Kit 30 Days Lost in Space. And what it is a 30-day challenge. Like it comes this little package, and it has hardware in it. And it has a Arduino board. And Arduino is a programmable microcontroller that is useful for many, many different kinds of projects. In fact, I'm wondering if after he's done with this, he could repurpose it for other things. Because the Arduino boards are sometimes used in like industry just to program to run a specific piece of equipment and that sort of stuff. In any case, so it has all this stuff in it. It's got a breadboard and wires and all kinds of electronics, and it's a story that he has to follow along with, where was on a spaceship and it crashed on this planet, and he has to repair his spaceship. And he has 30 days to learn how and to make the repairs to get off the planet. And so each day there's another lesson that walks him through building things. And there's building a camera and building a control system and it's really, it's really kind of neat. It needs to use the computer. So he's been using my laptop. It's PC or Mac. It works on both. And it was like, I'm going to say it was like $60, I think. And then they have a larger one for if you want to do another project, which is, I think, $100. And that's larger and longer. It takes, I think it's like 90 days or 60 days or something along those lines. And then they have all kinds of other kits as well that they're making. It's fun. And there's lots of other things out there like this, not just from this one company, but other kinds of these kit things out there. So it's kind of neat. And I think he's enjoying it, although sometimes it's hard to tell. How was it? It was good. Yeah, tell me about it. It's all right. I made some. Did the thing.
He's not very communicative.
Your enthusiasm is bowling me over. He's very much the teenager. It's so funny how sort of typical teenager he is compared to, say, Ben, because Ben is effusive, so it's just fun.
Yeah. Personality differences.
Yeah. So that's nice. That's been fun. Let's talk about food for a moment.
Okay.
Couple of things that I made for dinner.
Yeah, you've been much more cookie than I have.
Yes. Lucy was actually commenting, I think at dinner tonight, that I think it was Lucy, that I've been doing a lot more of the cooking lately.
Yes.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, I've been, trying to do the menu more, so I end up putting things I want to cook on the menu.
Right.
But also in the summer, there was a lot more grilling, so I do I do all the grilling, and you still are cooking stuff inside, like the sides and stuff. So
right.
It's a collaborative effort. Anyway, the first thing I made last night was from Cowboy Kent Rollins. I think I've mentioned him before.
You've definitely mentioned him before.
Just quick recap. He's a ranch cook, chuck wagon, old fashioned on a ranch in Oklahoma, who got really famous after being on a couple of Food Network competition shows, including the Bobby Flay one where he competes against Bobby Flay. He has a YouTube channel. He makes stuff all the time. He does all this cooking outdoors. Anyway, one of the things he does is he remakes fast food, like different fast food dishes or things, and makes them better.
Okay.
So this one was the Taco Bell Mexican pizza remake. So Taco Bell does this Mexican pizza thing where it's like tortillas, a sauce, a meat, a cheese, tomatoes on top. Beans, right. So he remakes it and makes it better. And I think it came up pretty good. So there's a couple elements to the Taco Bell Mexican pizza. There's like a cheesy beef, right? So you're cooking ground beef with some taco seasoning, and then you add some cheddar cheese to it, and that makes it sort of a cheesy, beefy.
I was wondering if Taco Bell actually has cheese in the beef, or if that was one of his like making it better.
That's a good question.
I don't remember there being cheese in the beef.
But Taco Bell has the beef sort of has I don't want to call it a gravy, but it's wet.
Yeah, it's much more kind of saucy than like my.
So I think that's his way of approximating it and making it better. I actually he sells his own like seasonings, so he has a taco seasoning, and he says just use any taco seasoning, and I actually put one together that I found online. I mean, it's taco seasonings. It's cumin, chili powder, garlic, all onion, paprika, salt, pepper,
oregano.
Right. I get the Mexican oregano in that. I'm so glad I bought a Mexican oregano, because there's a difference between Mexican oregano and Italian oregano. Italian oregano will work, but Mexican oregano has that specific flavor.
I've always just used Italian oregano in my Mexican cooking.
Yeah, you should check out the Mexican oregano because it's really kind of nice. So you make the beef. So you're making all the different pieces, and then with the tortillas, he takes the flour tortilla but sprinkles masa flour, the corn masa flour, on it, and then fries it so that the edges are crispy but the center is still pliable and soft, and it creates a certain kind of texture that is very much like the Taco Bell tortillas. There's something about when they fry their tortillas, it's got a kind of crispy coating on it that from the flour must have been. Then we make a hot sauce that's basically a can of tomato sauce, like plain tomato sauce, like when you go look on the shelf at the store. It's not like spaghetti sauce. It's like called tomato sauce. It's just basically cooked tomatoes. And then the Ortega diced green chilies, the little cans with the diced green, I don't know if they're jalapenos or Fresnos or whatever, but they're diced green. So
just sort of generic chilies.
Yeah. Then for the hot sauce, you add smoked paprika, cumin, garlic powder, onion powder. This called for red pepper flakes. I decided to put a little bit of cayenne, a pinch of cayenne in it, and white vinegar.
I mean, pepper flakes and cayenne is the same pepper. It's just...
Yeah, I just didn't want to have the seeds.
Big chunks or little chunks.
Yeah.
Or ground.
And it ends up being put in the blender anyway after you heat it up, and you just kind of bring it to a simmer, and then you put it in a blender. So, and then for the beans, what he does is he doesn't just he takes canned beans, refried beans, then puts in a saucepan with butter and sour cream, and it makes it smooth and more pliable, like more saucy almost.
More like Taco Bell beans.
It's very much like Taco Bell.
Have a slightly runnier consistency.
Yeah. I think I put a little too much either butter or sour cream in it because I thought I would have been better a little thicker. And then you layer it. You have a tortilla. You put some beans on that. Then you put some meat, some sauce, and then a mix of cheddar and cheddar and mozzarella cheese.
Mozzarella, really?
It's a Mexican pizza, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah, and then you put a tortilla on top of that. Then you put some more sauce on that. Then you put more cheese. And if we'd had jalapenos, I would have put jalapenos on there.
We had pickled jalapenos.
We had very few pickled jalapenos, which I saved for you for your.
Oh, that was nice.
For the non-Mexican pizza
I didn't realize those were being saved for me.
And then, what was the other thing? And then you put it in the oven for a few minutes, and then a little bit under the broiler to kind of melt the top and kind of brown the top. Pay attention. Don't walk away like I did.
Voice of experience.
Yes. Just on the last one. And take it out, let it sit for a bit because it's all kind of bubbly and, oozy.
Hot.
Yeah. Well, it's more that it's when you try to cut it into slices, it's going to ooze all over the place. So you just let it cool off a little bit and kind of solidify a little. And then you cut it into fours. And Sophie really liked it. And Lucy really liked it. I liked it. Anthony's not feeling great. So I don't know if it was just he was off.
He
ate a little bit of it.
He ate quite a bit.
That's right. He did. I think he liked it. Bella didn't like it. She made herself a burrito. Ben wanted a tostada. You made something with the corn tortillas.
I made quesadillas, but I used most of the components that you had. I just was using, because I want corn tortillas instead of flour.
Right.
I'm trying to avoid flour right now.
Yep.
So I put the cheese and the ground beef and the sliced pickled jalapenos inside the quesadilla.
Mm-hmm.
And then I layered on top, I put the beans and the sauce with some avocado and tomato and lettuce on top. Good. It was pretty good.
I mean, you could, the components of this dish all tasted really good, and you could build this in many different ways. You could turn this into burritos, you could make it into tacos, and just use the same components.
Right.
I think the flavors are what really are good, and it was really good. I have to say, I really enjoyed it, and I even ate the burned one. It was good. The edges got burned. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it was really tasty. I mean, it was a very tasty loaded quesadilla. I would probably not have loaded a quesadilla quite to that extent, but I was trying to kind of imitate your pizza. So, and it was good. It was messy, very messy, but tasty.
So I would definitely try this out. Just give it a try. And no part of it was that hard to do. So then tonight, I mean, just by happenstance, another Mexican dish, or Mexican inspired. I'm not sure Taco Bell qualifies as Mexican, but
it's sort of in the family.
The forecast had been calling for high heat and thunderstorms all day. So when we made our menu, I was doing something that, because we wouldn't be able to cook outside, and we didn't want to heat up the whole house, I said Instant Pot. So we came up with it. Turns out it was sunny and no rain today, but it was still pretty hot.
And without the AC, people were a little bit
dubious of having
hot stew.
Yeah. So what I have is a pressure cooker Mexican pork stew with summer vegetables. And this uses a pork shoulder that is cut into like 1-inch cubes. And then the vegetables include onion, garlic. I did not have jalapeno, so I used chipotle in adobo, which was good. It gave a little smoky flavor.
Uh-huh.
Zucchini, summer squash, green beans, tomatoes. The Roma tomatoes that I bought for this, we ended up using on the Mexican pizzas and quesadillas. There was only one Roma tomato left.
Oh, were those not supposed to be used?
There was supposed to be some for this and some for that.
Oh.
But that's fine. Because you could also use I used a can of fire roasted diced tomatoes, which actually I think was pretty good.
Or those fine tomatoes you could have used too. Yeah,
those tend to be wetter. Like the nice thing about Romas is that there's less of the pulp and liquid. There's more substance to them. And then I had bought corn on the cob at the store and cooked it last night. But I potentially cooked extra, because then you take 2 cups of corn kernels from corn on the cob and add that as well. So you have all these nice summery vegetables in it, and you basically saute the pork. You pressure cook it. Saute the pork, take it out, cook the onions and garlic and jalapeno if you have it, and then you add the pork back in. Turn on the along with some chicken broth. Then turn on the pressure cooker, cook that for like 18 minutes on the in the Instant Pot. Then turn it off, take off the lid after you get the steam out, then add the vegetables in, all of the vegetables at once, and then put the lid back on and bring it up to pressure again, another 6 minutes, and then you're supposed to, stir it up, taste it for salt and pepper, and serve it. Now, you probably noticed there wasn't any spices added to that. I added some cumin because I thought this would probably, use some cumin. But frankly, if I were to go back, I might add some cumin, some paprika, maybe some Aleppo pepper or something. It also might have worked really well with, we were saying, you were thinking potatoes?
Yeah, I think potatoes would have been a nice addition.
Yeah. And some lime juice, either at the table or...
it needed some of the
bite.
Brightness of
either
citrus or vinegar or something to kind of brighten it up a bit.
Right, exactly.
Acid.
Yes, it needs some acid. So but it was good, and it's a good start. I liked it. Lucy liked it. I think Sophie liked it as well. At the table, you did suggest serving it with radishes and cilantro and crumbled cheese, which I would think cojita is what they're looking for. I just served the shredded Mexican cheese.
That's our family standard.
Family standard.
I'm not so sure I bought the radishes.
You as a garnish.
As a garnish.
Yeah.
I might have added scallions to it. In addition to and avocados would have been good. A popular choice.
Yeah, avocado would have been good on that. And if I were to do this in the winter, like since squash and zucchini probably wouldn't be available, and I might use frozen corn.
Sometimes you can find zucchini.
Yeah, but frozen corn, frozen peas would be fine. Carrots, even like frozen corn and carrots, or just regular carrots, would be to make this sort of a winter version of this. But yeah, it definitely needs more spices, though. More of the Tex-Mex spices. Chili powder could have worked. Not too much. You don't want to overpower it. But yeah, it would have been good. But it was still good and tasty. So that's what we've been cooking. Let's talk about stuff we've been reading and watching. I'll let you go first. What have you been reading?
I took your advice. And
of course.
I don't always.
I know.
I took your advice and I started Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy. And so far I've finished the first book and I'm about halfway through the second book. I'd say maybe a little bit more than halfway. It is a huge trilogy.
These are big books. It took me weeks and weeks and weeks to read it. And you're like, I read the first one in a day. And then the next one.
No, it was more than a day.
You just power through these books. It's crazy.
I do. I'm a quick reader.
So what'd you think?
I really liked it a lot. It surprised me. I'm reluctant to give too many details because I didn't know what to expect going in. And a lot of what I really liked about it that was fresh and kind of surprising was fresh and surprising because I didn't know about it going in. And so I don't really want to spoil it.
This is why when I talked about it on the show before, I was like, I had to speak in vague terms. And even when I told you about it, I tried to remain vague about the things because it's the way it unfolds that's really interesting.
Right. It takes, there are a lot of very standard tropes especially in the first novel. There's kind of a little bit of a Cinderella story.
Mm-hmm.
There's the evil overlord who needs to be
the Dark Lord.
The Dark Lord. Except I really liked the fact that he is just the Lord Ruler. It is the most generic name.
Yep.
He is not overselling him, but he is kind of the Dark Overlord tyrant.
Well, he's like a god king.
Right.
Really. Yeah.
And a really cool system of magic. I think that one of the things that makes this series unique is the system of magic.
The burning metals.
Yeah, so the magicians who are called Mistborn or Mistings ingest bits of metal. It has to be pure metal, and then they burn it somehow.
And different kinds of metal have different effects.
Right. And so most people who have magical abilities can only burn one metal, and then there are
The Mistborn.
The Mistborn, who can burn all of the metals. So it's either you have only one or all of them.
Right. And they are complementary. Like this, like there are always pairs that have opposite
push and
pull powers, and it's really fascinating how it all works. Sanderson's brain is really interesting. It's interesting to read this after having read the Way of Kings books, because he basically, it's not the same thing, but it's kind of the same thing. It's a totally different world, a totally different magic system, but you can see where he's developed. He's grown in his writing of this stuff. Mistborn is really good, and then Way of Kings goes to another level, I think. But it's the world that he's built is really fascinating. But I also really enjoy the characters. There's some very interesting characters, and there's some twists and turns.
It's a good ensemble cast of characters.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, in fact,
it's a big cast.
Right. There's almost too many characters for me to keep them all straight. Because it's sort of almost got a heist novel sort of plot. Like you've got the team, the gang, the crew.
It's a heist story, in part. Yeah.
Right. But really, one of the things I liked was not knowing, like, that eventually they're going to like overthrow the evil overlord, because that's the way these tropes go.
Or will they?
But there's always that kind of question. Are they going to succeed? And then, like, is it going to take them 3 books like The Lord of the Rings? Or is there going to be other twists and turns? And I liked the fact that I really didn't know most of the way through the book where the climax was going to hit. Like, were they going to succeed? Were they going to fail? What was going to come next? Like, I really just was on the edge of my seat, not knowing. And I'm liking that. I'm liking the fact that it's not really predictable, even though he's using a lot of the fantasy tropes that I'm familiar with. He's really doing something different in his storytelling, in the way he's using them.
Right.
And I'm probably already saying too much, but
I think you're safe. But yeah, really good. I mean, Sanderson's reputation exists for a reason. I mean, he's got this ability to write like this sort of stuff that's really fascinating. So I started a new series by an author we both know, by Jim Butcher, who was the author of the Dresden Files. He wrote this book, The Aeronauts Windlass, which is in a new series that he's writing called the Cinder Spires series. This book came out in 2015, and the second book in the series is coming out this fall. Like, it has been 8 years since this first book. Like, this is why I'm hesitant to start new things with Butcher, because it could be 8 years before the next one comes out.
I think maybe I'll hold off until he's finished more of the series before starting it.
Yeah. But it's good. So it's billed as like sort of a steampunk fantasy setting. It's not really steampunk. I mean, there are airships and people wear goggles, and that's as steampunk as it gets, but they're not like blimps, or dirigibles. So it's in this world, there are these city states that are built inside these spires that are miles tall and I think a mile wide, or maybe not even that much, like a half mile wide. I forget exactly how like the diameter is supposed to be. And so that's so high up in the air, and all the people live inside the spires. They don't live on the surface of the planet because it's too dangerous there. The flora and fauna of the planet are extremely dangerous. And so they have these airships that everything is powered by crystals of various kinds, and the airships that are powered by these etheric winds or etheric energies in the sky. And I don't know, he doesn't explain everything right off the bat. You have to kind of stick to it for the first third, and you'll eventually get explained what's really going on. And it's a very Victorian style society.
Well, that's what makes it steampunk,
I guess. but that's
steampunk is Victorian culture with more technology.
Right. So it's not really, it's okay. But if you're going to look at it like this country that we start in, Albion, is like Victorian England. There's another one that's more Spain, and there's another one that's more Greece, I think, and that sort of thing. So, but we spend almost all of our time with the Albion folks, and it's very aristocratic, and you have the high, the high houses and the lords and ladies and stuff like that. I really, so the world building is fun. It's cool. I really like it. I mean, I love Aubrey Maturin, so there's a lot of nautical stuff, even though they're aeronauts. They were in the sky, but there's this sense of they're sailing and having air battles, like sea battles, and they're more like sailing ships than they are like airplanes, that sort of thing.
Right.
And but the characters are fun. I like the characters. I've seen some criticism. I made the mistake of looking at some reviews. Some people thought the characters were flat, or I thought they were interesting characters. Butcher's real skill, he's got two skills. Is like he creates a world and he puts these interesting characters in it. And I feel like that's what he's done. He's got these interesting characters that are all these different kinds, and I want to know more about them. He doesn't really flesh them out. There's a lot more that needs to be done, but there's a hint at a lot of interesting stuff going on in them. So that part of it is really good. And it's, there's a lot of adventure, a lot of, and cats. They're not talking cats. They're intelligent cats. And some humans can speak cat, and which is important. But the cats are all insufferable jerks.
Well, that's
because they're cats. But they will tolerate humans, and sometimes they adopt humans and allow them to be part of their entourage, etc. It's just kind of a funny bit that he does. Butcher likes to write about animals. I've noticed. I like it. I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the second novel coming out this fall. And what else there's to say about it? I guess that's it. I don't remember. See if I had any other notes on it. It hints at an origin of this. Like they have the mythical builders, the builders of the spires, and their technology is lost. They can't rebuild spires like they used to. They don't know, the techniques have been lost, etc., etc. So, yeah, and there's an evil that is coming into the world that has to be fought, which is another Butcher thing. Oh, I knew what I was going to say. It's pretty clean. I think when Butcher wrote the Dresden Files, especially the early ones, I think he was a lot more younger.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he definitely was a lot younger. I think he, as a dad now, I have a feeling he's kind of toned things down as an older guy. I mean, that's not always true. I mean, George R.R. Martin is an older guy, and he still writes some spicy stuff. But there was nothing in the book that I would feel like would be bad for my 17-year-old to read. I think she would be fine reading it. So, in fact, there were two of the protagonists are 16, 17-year-old young ladies. So, yeah,
it could also partly be that the Dresden Files was specifically writing within the genre of
urban.
Well, I was thinking more
noir.
Yeah, the detective noir has a lot of tropes, and I think he's was always playing on those.
Yeah. Whereas this says, this is cleaner in that sense. I mean, Dresden wasn't terrible, but I wouldn't let my teens read, especially the early ones. But for this one, I found it to be there's references to, in war people get injured and they have injuries, and sometimes there's reference to the fact that sometimes soldiers do things to women in war, but it's not described. It's just mentioned and in the context of, we're not that kind of soldier sort of thing.
Right.
So that in that sense. So, good. So then stuff we've watched. We watched Secret Invasion, which is the new Marvel series on Disney Plus.
With Nick Fury.
Starring Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson. and and also, oh, what is his name? The Skrull guy. He was director Krennic in Rogue One. I can never remember his name, the actor. Anyway,
I do not know it. I'm sorry.
Yes, so anyway, it basically there's a secret invasion. They have to stop a doomsday thing.
It's kind of got a spy thriller sort of feel to it. At least the first episode did.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of
Winter Soldier, Captain America.
No, the series Shield, Agents of Shield.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it reminded me, not Captain America, but it reminded me of Falcon and Winter Soldier a lot too. You know, that sort of we have to run around chasing the bad guys who are about to do a bad thing.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also, a little bit like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., except Samuel L. Jackson dropping the... Actually, I don't think he's for it.
No, I don't think he did.
No. It's got Olivia Colman in it, who is always the delight. She's so funny in this one. It's like chewing the scenery.
Olivia Colman's great. I always
She's fantastic. Emilia Clarke is in it, which is interesting to see her. I haven't seen enough of her to say one way or another whether I think she's doing good. I mean, she's usually pretty good. So we'll have to see where it goes. It's promising, but this sort of thing can sometimes get tedious. This whole revolution invasion thing being led by the charismatic bad guy and all this stuff. I don't know. It could get tedious. There's a spy thriller type that can get bad, but this doesn't have to be that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right. I mean, I think there's a potential for, I mean, because we're dealing with Skrulls and the whole, how can you trust anybody when your enemy can put on anybody's shape?
Right.
That's an interesting twist to the spy thriller genre, which we kind of had hints of in Captain Marvel, but this is really, I think, doing more of a let's focus on that aspect of the Skrulls, much more so than we have in the past. And I think that's interesting. And also, I think Fury's character, where they're taking him, seems to be going in an interesting direction. He was changed, but like all the other characters that we've seen in the Marvel TV shows, we're really exploring the psychology of the snap, like what happened to the people who were left behind, and also what happened to the people who were snapped who then come back. And I think that's one of the strengths of the TV shows versus the movies, is that they're really looking at that inner working of the person. Right. Now, what I'm curious going forward is the show going to do for Nick Fury what Falcon and Winter Soldier did for
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I'm blanking on names.
Yeah, I get the actors' names in my head, but never mind the characters. Doesn't matter.
Are we really going to dive into the psychology, or are we going to stay fairly on the surface as a spy thriller? I'm hoping that they're going to follow through in the same vein and really kind of let us get to know Nick Fury better, because I feel like he's one of those characters who the movies did not do justice to. We only saw him as a supporting character, and this is
except in Captain Marvel.
Even there, I felt like he was still.
Well, he wasn't Captain Marvel, but he was still a supporting actor.
We saw more of him, but I still feel like he's kind of always been a side character, and I'm really looking forward to getting more Nick Fury.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That's one thing I'm looking forward to, and I hope they do a good job with, because there's always been this promise of this interesting guy who started the Avengers, and it was his idea, but he's always kind of been in the background.
Right. So let's.
And then disappeared.
Maddeningly.
That always bugged me, is oh, we've got S.H.I.E.L.D. and oh no, but Hydra's taken over and Nick Fury is gone. And it's Why? Where's he go? Like, why is he up on that space station? Why is he not like running things anymore? Like, why? Where'd he go?
So I'm hoping that this show is going to be the answers that we've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah.
Now that's a lot of build up, and there's a lot of potential for it to be disappointing. So I'm holding my breath and hoping one episode is hard to judge from.
I haven't seen any of the Marvel movies that have been out this year. I haven't seen Ant-Man Quantumania. I haven't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy. I haven't seen we saw the Black Panther one. We did see that.
Yes. But
the other ones I haven't seen. And I keep hearing from people how disappointing they were, and it, like, oh, is this the end of the MCU? I mean, we reached our the saturation point. I suppose that's possible, but that would be disappointing. I think right now the most interesting stuff going on in the MCU are all on Disney Plus.
So far I agree.
Yeah.
Although I heard really good things about the new Spider-Man. What's it called?
The Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
The animated, the first animated one. A lot of people say
I never saw it.
A lot of people say this is the best Marvel, and then the second one, people are saying similar things. So we really should watch both of those.
We should.
Yeah, and then I'm looking forward to the Ms. Marvel one with where Kamala Khan meets up with Captain Marvel and the other one who's not, her name's not Marvel, but her friend of Captain Marvel. She was in WandaVision.
Monica.
Yes. Rambo.
Thank you.
Rambo. Hey, we got a name together. Woo! Working hard. Those brains getting those.
My brain is hot. Okay, I'm hot. There's no AC.
So, I'm looking forward to that. Seeing how Kamala Khan translates to the big screen. That should be interesting.
That should be fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad the actress is getting a chance to go big.
Yeah. It's weird. Our kids have not wanted to finish that series. I thought they would love that.
Some of them wanted to. Some of them had anxiety issues that kind of broke into it.
Right.
I think it's more or less the disinterest in the series and more.
And it's not like they can just, some of them watch it and others not. They all have to watch everything together.
Well, I think some people are wanting to rebel and just go ahead and watch it. Yep.
Well, maybe we should let them. So one last thing to talk about for stuff we watched is last night I watched the 9th Fast and Furious movie, F9. Because, let's be really, I think they've run out of steam for the names. Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast, Furious, Furious and Fast, F9. I kept falling asleep. I
don't think that's the kind of movie you're supposed to fall asleep to.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was tired. I mean, there was lots of the smash and action in racing cars and fast stuff and completely ridiculous things. No one ever dies. Everyone who's ever died in the movies has come back, except for the one guy who died in real life, who obviously isn't coming back. He died after the second or third movie or whatever. But
how do they just not explain, or do
they explain? Oh, well, when you thought the car was exploding with me in it, in reality, what happened was, and they kind of. What's funny is they've gotten to the point with these movies where they're totally breaking the fourth wall and pointing out to the audience how ridiculous everything is. At one point, one of the characters, I can never remember any of the characters' names except for Dom and Letty, his girlfriend, I guess. I don't remember any of the characters' name, but he kind of stands up and goes, does anybody else notice how improbable everything is? Like, I was standing in the middle of 14 guys shooting at me with AK-47s. Look at my coat, it's full of holes. I didn't get a scratch. How is that possible? He's like going on and on. Like, we do all these incredible, improbable things and nothing ever happens to us. It always works out. How is that possible? And they're all like, I don't know, man, we're lucky. And then they move on. It's like, they're totally winking at the audience.
Well, the rule is if you have a character in universe remark on the improbability of a situation, that somehow makes it feel less improbable.
Probably.
But I think that is only true to a point.
Right.
We get to the point where everything is just so over the top that even somebody remarking on it just does not help with the suspension of disbelief.
Well, there's another point in the movie where one of the bad guys points out to another bad guy, if this were a movie, this is the point where the villain will have suffered a setback and then would overcompensate in the other direction and thus give an opening to the good guys to win, which is exactly what's happening at that point. It was kind of hysterical. I mean, at one point, two of the characters go into space in a rocket-powered Pontiac Fiero.
What?
It is totally crazy. Like every movie, they just go further and further out there. It is hysterical. But you know what? It's interesting is how often they sneak in stuff about faith and prayer. Like
I did not expect that.
Yeah, like the main character Dom is he one of the things that's like most visible about him is this cross that his father gave him that he wears. It's this big honking Italian cross that he wears, and he's got a son in the 9th movie, a little 2 or 3 year old boy, and he's like he's putting him to bed at the beginning of the movie, and he's like, now remember, where does God live? God is in my heart. And where is Daddy always going to be? In my heart, and like he says prayers with them, and like he makes them say grace before dinner, and like it's not like they're not evangelizing, like talking about their faith in Jesus Christ movie, but it's just kind of a surprising little element that keeps getting in there. I just kind of find that fascinating. So it's interesting.
I would not have expected that.
Yeah. Anyway, Fast and Furious was $3 on iTunes to rent, so I rented it. I was looking for something to watch last night. It was either that or the new Shazam sequel, which I really do want to see, but that was like $5. I'm like, I'll do the $3 one. I'll come back for the Shazam.
Okay.
All right. So that's what we've been reading and watching. Let's talk briefly about today's homily from Mass. If you will remember, today we had the gospel reading from Matthew, where Jesus, it's the one about the sparrow doesn't fall to the ground without the Father's knowledge, and all the hairs on your head are counted, so you have no fear.
So he's sent in this one. He's sending the apostles out, right? Is it the sending of the?
This is his pep talk before
sending out the 12.
Yeah. Yes. Because right before that, he says, I'm sending you like sheep into the midst of wolves. It's like, this is like the best pep talk ever. So you're going to get persecuted, right? So I'm sending you out and bad things are going to happen to you. But he's saying, just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid because God's got your back, which is what Father said in his homily, Father Emmanuel.
I really liked Father Emmanuel's homily today. So he started off, he's African. Where is he from?
I was supposed to ask you, do you know where he's from? Because he mentioned when he came from his country, and I can never remember which country he came from. It might be Nigeria.
I think he's Nigerian.
Yeah.
He's studying at Boston College, and he's been here for, I think he said 4 years.
Yeah, something like that.
About like 2020.
2019.
2019, right. Yeah. So
he came in summer of 2019, which is important to the story.
Okay. So he said he was full of trepidation and fear and anxiety when he was coming to Boston, because coming from an equatorial tropical country to
a country that has a place that has winter.
And he said whenever it was the cold season, like when it got colder in his country, I'm guessing not cold by our standards, but cold by their standards,
comfortable shirt sleeve weather,
he would get sick. And so he was afraid that he would be perpetually sick.
Yes.
And he got here, he said, in August, and it was chilly, again, by African standards.
Yeah, he said at first it was fine, but then it got a little chilly.
And New England can do that in the summer. I remember.
Or even in September, yeah.
I remember being shocked when I first moved here at like a day when there was a thunderstorm system rolled in, and it got cold.
Yeah, like 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, which in the summer it feels cold.
Which, coming from Texas, where it's 100 in the summer, 60 feels like wintertime. Now, it doesn't feel like wintertime to me anymore because I've lived here for 20.
You've lived here longer than you lived in Texas.
I don't know if that's true. Yeah. We're getting close, though.
Getting close.
Anyway, Father Emmanuel said that he had asked for friends for prayers before he came. And he did not get sick when it got cool. And then he survived his first winter without really getting sick. And he's had several more winters.
Keep in mind which winter that was. That winter ended in the spring of 2020. So getting sick would have been a big deal at that point in time. Right. He came just as COVID lockdown happened.
Right. And I really appreciated what, he said that, he's like, wow, I've really managed to not get sick. And then he said it kind of struck him that God had answered the prayers of the friends who had been praying for him. And that it wasn't just this like lucky break that he didn't get sick, but it was answered prayers. Like, it was the power of prayer. And I really loved that he talked about sort of how Jesus is telling us not to be anxious, to trust. And we're being called to sometimes go into these situations which make us feel anxious. Like, we are, like the 12, being sent by Jesus. We have missions. And those missions can fill us with anxiety. And yet he says, the image that Jesus uses is the image of the sparrow, and God pays attention to every sparrow.
Right.
Which reminded me of, so I am on a local bird, southeastern Massachusetts bird watching group on Facebook. And this week, someone posted a picture of their bird feeder and a bird on it. And like, I see a whole bunch of these birds. What is it? Y'all, it was a house sparrow.
The most common bird.
It is the most common bird. Now, they are an invasive species. They originally came from Europe. They are not native to, we have sparrows that are native to North America, but the house sparrow is not one of them. Someone introduced them to North America.
Like colonial times. Yeah.
And they have proliferated pretty much all over the continent, and they're everywhere.
Yeah. But if you're a new birder,
they're kind of an exciting bird when you don't know what anything is. And yes. I kind of laughed, but I also thought, as an experienced birder who it's easy to kind of overlook the sparrows and go, oh, that's just more sparrows. You don't get excited about them after a while because they're so ubiquitous.
They're so common.
And I think that's kind of the
even
point.
In Jesus's time,
Jesus's time, these were the common birds that nobody paid attention to, but God does. There is no single sparrow that falls and dies that God doesn't notice. I don't notice the sparrows.
All these sparrows die all the time. All of these sparrows will die, and there are hundreds of them just living near our house. They're all going to die, but we're going to maybe see one or two dead sparrows in a year.
Every time I go outside, there are dozens of sparrows hopping in and out underneath our solar panels and in the bushes, and you just hear them all the time. And I think that kind of hit home to me, is like, that's what Jesus is talking about, is we might not pay attention to them. We might not be able to tell one sparrow from another, and they're just common birds, but God does.
But God's paying attention to everything. That's
right.
The thing. God is paying attention to everything down to the atomic level, the subatomic level. God knows. Like, Jesus isn't going to say that in the gospel because they wouldn't understand what he means by subatomic. But God is paying attention to literally everything, and yet we are worth more than all that.
Right. But he pays attention to us in a special way. Each one of us is known and beloved. And I love the example that Father Emmanuel gave. He said, God knows the number of the hairs on your head. And then he says, And there's the joke about the guy the preacher is preaching on this, and he raises his hand and he says, well, what about those of us who have helped God out? Meaning he has no hair.
Yes. For some of us, counting the hairs on our head is easier than others.
And he says, yeah, you too. Even the bald people, God knows you. He loves you. You, particular, the individual person that you are beloved. And I don't know, this is one of my favorite readings. You are worth more than many sparrows. Always just really hits me in a special way.
And then Jesus ends with like the twist. But whoever denies me before others, I will deny before my heavenly Father. What? Like after that beautiful reassurance, of, fear no one, no secret will not be known. God knows everything. He's, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. In other words, be serene. This is the martyrdom and persecution gospel, really. Be serene in the face of those challenges. But if you deny me before others, I will deny you before my heavenly Father. Like, whoa. Okay.
Well, because they've been sent to proclaim him, not to deny him.
Right.
That's the mission. If you fail in the mission, then there are consequences.
So I think that does it for that. Now, before we go, I did want to have a brief, little bit of an announcement.
Right.
It sounds dramatic. It's not. But we're going to take a bit of a break.
Summer break.
We're taking summer break from the podcast. We got a lot going on this summer, as you have noticed, and a lot of the house stuff and family stuff going on. And so we just need to take a break, partly so that the podcast doesn't become this chore and a slog that is on the calendar. And we're like dreading having to, we got to record another episode and all that sort of stuff. And we're kind of going away and doing things, and finding time to record would also be an issue. So we're kind of taking all that off the platter, and we're going to take a summer break. But I think one of the things that we'll also do is we've had some ideas of other things we'd like to record that aren't this podcast. We wanted to do like episodes of Secrets of Movies and TV shows on particular stuff so that we could talk at length about, say, The Last of Us. We could talk about that for an hour, or, other stuff that we've been wanting to talk about and that we haven't had a chance. And we've got other podcasts. I don't want to say too much now, but other podcast ideas we've had that I think would be fun. So we might at some point also get a chance to kind of think about doing some of that sort of thing. So
maybe
we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the important thing right now is we want to take a break and, get caught up with life and family. So maybe look for us in the fall. And until then, we really do appreciate you listening, and stay subscribed. Keep the feed going. Then you'll be sure not to miss us when we come back. It doesn't cost you anything to keep a feed going.
Right.
An empty feed open in your podcast catcher. So we appreciate that. So as we wrap up, I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Raising the Bets, including Robert S., Tom N., John L., Robert C., and Rick M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Raising the Bets and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And that's it for this time. Find links from our discussion in our show notes at sqpn.com/bets. That's BETTS. Send your feedback at the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send us an email at bets@sqpn.com, or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. Remember to like Raising the Bets on the StarQuest Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Retweet us on Twitter at SQPN, and leave us comments wherever you find us. We love to interact with you. Until next time, I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli. Have a great summer.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest. Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy. Let's Science. Find the show wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/science.